Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. And we're heading up to Old Canada in the province of Alberta, actually. And we're going to meet up with Holly Heier. And she's on the team of Humble Bow Hunter. Holly, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Well, I talked with Bo Hutchinson a couple weeks ago, and he said, hey, you got to get Holly on the show. So here we are, and I'm excited to be talking to you. I love Canada. I killed my biggest buck in Saskatchewan many years ago, a few years ago. But it was a gorgeous deer, and I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time in Canada, Canadian provinces, and from Quebec all the way to Alberta and British Columbia. So having said that, Holly, let's talk about how you got into the world of hunting.
Sure. It's how I grew up. I'm from Saskatchewan. And that's how I grew up, with my dad and brother hunting. Mom and I never really had a whole lot to do with it other than tagging along, but never participating really. But then I moved out to Alberta and met my husband, who is avid hunter, fisher, archer, everything outdoors. And then if I just wanted to see him, I had to start myself. So that's what I did. Yeah. Started hunting about 20 years ago.
How old were you when you started hunting?
20, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what was the hardest thing for you as a brand new hunter, a little older? Today they'd call you an adult onset hunter. But what was the hardest thing for you to overcome?
Probably just confidence that I could do it, firstly. I didn't know any other women hunters. And I never grew up with women hunters. It just wasn't something that we really did. So overcoming thinking that I couldn't, I guess.
No, how did you do that?
Just kept at it.
Okay.
I wanted, so I did.
Yeah, persistence and doggone determination, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, sort of, kind of. Yeah, you bet.
How helpful was your husband in the process?
Oh, very. Yeah. He's who taught me pretty much everything I know. My dad and brother, of course, I picked up things along from them, but not really looking at it as a hunter perspective. Just, yeah. So I picked up the stuff from them, but definitely they were more influences. My husband, his name's Adam. Adam was much more my teacher.
Okay. So did you have any other mentors?
Well, not really. There's sort of like Bentley Coben out of Saskatchewan. We have a lot to do with him. And I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a big deal. And he's got a hunting camp near Saskatoon in Saskatchewan. And he's an old family friend. And so he was pretty instrumental too in the first part, and still is.
And what was his name again?
Bentley Coben.
Bentley Coben. And I bet you people could find him on the web or something.
Oh, yeah.
Now, does he hunt everything, or what does he hunt?
Mainly whitetail. That's where, Jim Shockey started with, he's affiliated with Bentley Coben. Same with Cody Robbins. I don't know if you guys know who Cody Robbins is. Jason Peterson. All those, they're big names out here. So
yeah, some big names in Canadian whitetail hunting.
And he's kind of part of that back in the day.
Wow, if you know him, I'd love to get him on the show.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I can talk to him.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on the show as a guest, doing the same thing what we're doing. When you think about women in the outdoors, why do you think they're growing so fast? Because it's the fastest growing segment in the outdoor world today.
I have no idea. I don't. For myself, I can say why, but I don't know. For myself, it started out just wanting to be active in the outdoors and enjoy being with my husband, because that's something he lives and breathes. And so it started there, but then I really took over wanting to be liking the feeling of being self-sufficient and being the only people that touch our meat because we process it all ourselves and everything too. So it's, yeah, I like that aspect of it. So that's what keeps me going. And now we have kids. And I just think that is a huge way of life that I want to instill in them.
Yeah, I had a talk with Corey Sly. He's from Pennsylvania, and we talked about field to plate, and his family lives on venison. For the most part, that's the protein source. Now he does fish and he does shoot small game and does some waterfowl hunting, but basically he'll kill as many deer as the law allows in the state. And when he does that, he gets enough for the year and he processes it all himself because he wants to know where his meat comes from.
Yeah, no, we're exactly the same. We don't solely live on venison, but it's some wild meat of some sort. Like we've got moose and elk too. And so we go after whatever we get drawn for there. But then we raise our own pigs and our own chickens. And that's our other source of protein too. But same logic behind it, knowing what goes into it and knowing everything about it.
Yeah, more and more people are doing that. And that being hunting, harvesting, killing their own game, processing in the field, taking it home, and then processing it in their garage or in their kitchen for the most part. And it doesn't take that much really to do it. It's not a big a deal as people think to break down an animal into manageable parts that you'd go in and buy a roast or at the store. Well, it's the same thing that you've done. Once you vacuum seal them, or wrap them, you've done exactly the same thing. And the tenderloins and the back straps down to the grind, the hamburger you make is all better than what you could get in the store.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed.
So do you like to hunt with rifle or bow? What's your choice of weapon?
We start out in September every year as archery hunters, both of us. But if we can't make it happen, then come November, we have no problem with our rifles.
So you can get multiple licenses then?
Yeah, up here it's different for different species, but for like whitetail or mule deer or even moose, if you get drawn for that animal, then your season starts September 1st until October 31st. And you can, if you're an archer, and so you can do that for 2 months. And then you can carry on into November with your bow if you want to, but that's when rifle season starts and it ends the last day in November.
I've heard that moose hunting is extremely difficult. Tell me about hunting moose because they're the biggest deer in the deer family. So how hard is it hunting moose?
It's pretty tricky. I've only been drawn once. It's a big weight up here. Adam has been drawn twice. So in our life together, we've only had 3 in our whole 20 years of being together.
Oh my goodness.
It's a big weight. It's an 8-year draw for our area. So I've only had one, been drawn once, and tried since the start of September to get him. And we did lots of field work before that and research and stuff and found the one we want and went after him the start of September and had some very near misses, or not misses. I never did ever get to shoot, but like close calls, but never got to be where I was in a position to take a good shot. So never did be able to do it with my bow. But then November 1st came and we did it that day with my rifle.
Well, hunting that long, you couldn't be the only person with a permit or a tag in that area. How'd you keep the other people away from that one?
Well, there's a lot of big chunks of land around here. And so you just have to get permission from those landowners. And lots of them only let certain people on. But also, like, I'm not saying we're the only people going after that moose, but there was lots of landowners will only let a handful of people on every year.
Okay, so you had to be a pretty good hunter to pattern him or scout him out, knowing where he was, and then staying on him before somebody else got him.
Well, yeah, I guess in the end it all worked out. But yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of cameras reviewing. We had both boys at that time. They were 3 and 1, and just packed them up a lot and took them on drives and never on our hunts, like none of the hunts, I guess, when they were that little. But on all the like research and scouting trips they came on. So
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And how much meat do you think you got out of the moose?
I don't know. I'm not too sure. I couldn't say. We lived on them for almost 2 years.
Wow. So way over a couple 100 pounds.
Yeah. And at that time, our boys were still small too. So it basically just 2 adults eating. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, good for you. That's really exciting. Now let's switch it up to the bow hunting, Humble Bow Hunters. How did Bo get a hold of you?
Well, somebody asked me that just the other day, and I can't even really tell you, but we just started following each other on Instagram and, kind of get to know people through that, even though I have never met Bo in person. But kind of got to know each other through that and just through different posts and things that he'd do and I would do. And he liked my content. And so he approached me about working on his team with him. He liked the family aspect. I'm a personal trainer as well. So he liked that I could bring family in the outdoors, women to the outdoors, and fitness all kind of together and help him with that side of his vision for his Humble Bow Hunter. Yeah.
Say, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how would they do that? And please don't give me your phone number.
Okay. I'm on Instagram and my username is chasing_outdoors. That's probably the best way.
Okay. And are you on Facebook or Twitter as well?
I'm on Facebook. Yep. And that's Holly Thorsteinson and Heier. I kept my maiden name in there just so people from my past could find me. But yeah.
Well, that's great. And what do you do
it.
for Humble Bow Hunters? What's your role as being a team member?
Well, it's still pretty new, but what I have contributed to the page is some recipes. I've been cooking wild game for, I guess, about 20 years. And so I wasn't good at it at all at the start, but I'm starting to get where I'm good at it. So sharing those successful recipes, and also I've wrote a few posts just about workouts you can do to help you reach your goals in the hunting field, as well as I wrote about my moose hunt. Yeah, so I'm just kind of bringing fitness, women, and family to his page. Yeah, and how to work them all together, intersect them.
Sure. You just mentioned youth hunts. How are you involved with the youth?
Oh, I didn't say youth hunts.
Okay. What'd you say?
I don't know, but I didn't say youth hunts.
Because you said you're involved in fitness.
Yeah.
And then cooking and then something else.
The moose hunt.
The moose hunt. Okay.
Yeah, you have to be 12 to hunt. I'm not sure if it's in all through Canada, but in Saskatchewan and Alberta for sure, you have to be 12 or older to shoot.
Okay.
Hunt here. The only part, like we take my nephew all the time, so that's all I have to do with youth hunting. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about whitetail hunting and your passion for hunting whitetails in the bush, as they call it in Canada.
Yeah. So we have a season here where you don't need to be drawn for a whitetail. You can get a general whitetail buck tag and a doe tag. You're allowed 2 per person if you want. And then when it comes to mule deer, you have to be drawn for that. We have a lot of both up here.
Now, what class of deer do you have in your area?
A lot of like 140s, nothing massive, but a lot of like 140s.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, upwards to like 180, but there's not a ton of those. You got to really look for those ones.
Right, and 200 are really hard to come by.
Oh, yeah. With the mule deer, it's not as hard to find that big, but with the whitetail, yeah, there's not a lot of them.
What's your best strategy for hunting whitetails?
We just use a lot of trail cameras, and they're just everywhere here. Like you can see them. I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but in ours, it's you just find them driving around. Like they're everywhere.
So then you have to get permission from the landowner to set up your stands?
Oh, for sure. Yes, you need to get permission. So generally what we do is we drive around. We have our few areas that we like to hit up every year and the same landowners every year. So what we'll do is go and ask those landowners if we can get on their piece again. And pretty much always they let you year to year if you're good to them and good to their land and everything. And then set up our cameras. We'll start that in July and August and set up our cameras and start reviewing and see which ones we want to go after and decide where we want to set up our blinds. We don't do tree stands. We don't have trees big enough. So any of our stands, and we don't use this, but like guys will use like a tower stand, like they'll build them, but they're not put in trees up here. We just have poplars and little skinny things.
Right. You don't have hardwoods in your area.
No.
So do you use pop-up blinds then?
Yep, for sure.
So how do you decide where you're going to set them up?
Based on our trail cameras and the patterns we watch. So we'll find which one we want to go after the trail camera, or if we just get lucky and see it, while we're scouting, and just watch them and figure out their patterns and set up based on that.
How much before the season do you set up your ground blinds?
Preferably like start of August, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it's like a week before.
Wow.
How prepared we are.
Yeah, because I heard most people like to get them in a month beforehand so the deer get used to them. That's just another something out there, and that's what it is.
Absolutely. Yes, that's definitely ideal.
Now, how do you brush them in?
We'll just cut off branches of other trees and brush it in, or we have that meshy fabric, like I don't know, it's just a meshy fabric that's camo patterned. So we'll put that around the blind plus all the brush that we cut off and stick into the blind and stuff. Sometimes it's bales. There's lots of bale yards and stuff around here, so sometimes you use bales.
Bales as a blind? A bale blind then?
Yeah, we haven't used that for a long time, but we have before. Or just bales in a field, like hide behind one.
Wow, that's interesting. No, I've done that with rifle hunting, but I've never done that. Put a pop-up in, or I'll put a bale blind out, because they're great. You just have to watch your scent and everything. But once the deer see it, they don't pay any attention to it at all.
Yeah, it just depends. I don't know. You just kind of have to go with the flow, though, too. So be flexible, right? Like if things aren't working out, then you got to be able to move spots or whatever. Like because Adam, he got an antelope, which is really tricky to get with your bow. He got an antelope a couple years ago, just using a decoy and just walking behind it and like getting closer and closer to his antelope that he got. When he got to 30 yards with that. Yeah, we do a lot of spot and stalk too, even with our bows. That's all I did with my moose was spot and stalk. I never did get him, but that's all we did. We didn't have a blind set up for him.
I heard also with antelope, people use cows.
Yeah, they like to be in fields.
Yeah, and they just have a cow and then they just keep moving it forward. And I've been able to flag them. A long time ago, a guy showed me, you just take your hat or a white flag or something and you flag the antelope, and they're very curious. So they'll come in from long distances and they'll check you out and then you get them.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I didn't know that. That's neat.
Yeah, try that next time you get an antelope license. Try flagging them. And it could be just your hat, or it could be a stick with a white cloth or something that they can see, and just flag it and then pop up, pop down, pop up, pop down, and they'll come on over to see what the heck you are.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. I should actually get my archery antelope this fall for down south. They're not right here. We have a few, but not a lot.
So you have to go to the southern part of the province?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's a good fun hunt, that's for sure. Not like chasing whitetails, but it's still a fun hunt. When you think about the blogs you write and your recipes, what do you really want to share with your listeners at Humble Bow Hunters or your readers?
What Bo's vision for it, I think my take on what Bo's vision is to just keep it relatable and real. So none of us are perfect and none of us are professional anything. We're just regular people. He just wants us to share our experiences, our triumphs and our failures, and what we've learned from all of that. So just keeping it real. And so anything that I have wrote, like in my moose hunt, I wrote about how I struggled because my kids were little. So that was actually the basis of my story there, was getting over feeling guilty about hunting when you're a mother, because it's a lot of time away from your family and your kids. And then you come home with nothing day after day. It's like it plays on your mind and you feel guilt. I did anyway. So that's kind of what I wrote about there. So I was just being honest, I guess.
Yeah, I would say honest and transparent.
Yeah, that's a good word, transparent. For
Yeah,
sure.
because that's important. So many people put on masks. You say, well, just wasn't fortunate. But here's the grind. Here's really what I felt going through this whole process. And in the end, yes, I was successful, but this is what I had to go through to get there. And other people go, well, I feel the same way. And then once you get that, then you open communication.
Yeah, it was really nice because then I wrote that and I kind of felt better after writing it. I don't know. It was kind of just a way to get it out, even though I didn't know I needed to get it out. I guess it just felt good to write it and say how it was a struggle. In the end, that was wonderful and totally worth it, but how it was a struggle all the way through. And it was like I had posted it, and then about an hour later, maybe somebody I don't even know sent me a message and said how she could totally relate to that and that she struggles with that same feeling and how it's hard for her to go out and leave her babies. And so that made it worth it right there.
It sure did. It sure did. Say, do you have a recipe you'd like to share with my listeners?
Oh, on the spot.
Yeah, I put you on the spot.
I'm just trying to think. I've only posted a few on the blog. The one I can think of the best is borscht. Do you guys make borscht down there?
No, not really. Some people do, I'm sure. I don't.
You know what it is?
No?
It's soup.
Okay. German name for soup, right?
Well, it's Ukrainian.
Okay. So let's talk about that.
Sure. So it's just basically vegetable soup with the way we were raised doing it is with beef or venison or some sort of red meat. And it's hamburger and you fry it up and then you just add a ton of vegetables from your garden because we're big. My family was always big gardeners. Me and my husband do a bunch of gardening as well. And so it's just a great way to use up all your produce that you are growing. So it's like beets, carrots, cabbage, corn, onions, tomatoes, but the basis is beets.
And then do you put spices in it or, how do you flavor it up?
Yeah, it's just salt and pepper and garlic is what we put in. Sometimes if it needs a little bit of something, we'll throw in like a can of tomato soup. But otherwise, no, not really. It's just really good. It's just a vegetable soup with beef in it and beets.
Well, something new every day, and that's why I asked the questions.
That's right. Yeah, it's very good. We eat it a lot in the summer.
Where do you want your hunting career to go?
Well, I have some big goals. I don't foresee, what I want to do with it, I guess, is continue on just doing what we're doing and instilling in my kids that this is important. And they're 7 and 5 now, so it is getting fun. And they like to participate for sure. The 5-year-old isn't as apt and he doesn't have the stamina or he gets hungry and cold and tired and stuff. But 7-year-old, he does really good and he loves it. So that feels really good. So I want to instill in them the values and the persistence and being self-sufficient is really important to us. That's where I want to go with my family. Like my dream hunt is Alaskan or Yukon moose. So, but otherwise, that's kind of where I want to go.
Not sheep hunting?
Yeah, I do want to do that too. We've done it a bit. Adam goes every year. I'm only just getting to where it's hard to leave the kids for a minimum of 10 days. It's a lot to ask of my parents to watch them and find help for that long. So that's what's hard. It's on my radar for sure. Adam gets to go. I'm getting there. And that's a huge commitment. That's so hard. Sheep hunting. It's not for everybody.
No, it's not. The mountains, they'll flat out kill you.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. You find out what you're made of.
Yeah, because the mountains don't care. They completely don't care. And you got to bring whatever you have, and it's either good enough or it isn't.
Yeah.
That's a great segue into your personal training business. And why do you do that?
I got into fitness right after my first boy was born. And I started seeing a trainer and going to the gym. I've always been active and just through sports and hunting and stuff, but outdoor activities, but never actually caring about getting healthy from exercise. Like I would do those things just because I like them. So my oldest boy's name is Huck. So after Huck was born, I just decided to get in good shape before we tried for. I had troubles with him and with carrying him and delivering and stuff. So I thought by the time we want to have a second baby, I wanted to really be in good shape to be able to not have issues. So that was my premise. That was why I started getting into it, was to have more babies. After, I just kind of fell in love with it, and I've only been a trainer for about a year. So about a year and a half ago, I went back to school and got it all done, and now I'm a trainer. Yeah.
So do you just train ladies or men, or is it just for the outdoors, or what is your client like?
I work at a gym in town. I work 1 day a week, and I only do that just because of the boys in school, and so I work it around their schedule so far. And no, it's anybody. It's all ages. I've got clients from, I guess my youngest would be 23 up to 67, and everywhere in between. Some wanting to build muscle, some wanting to lose weight, some just for health, just for whatever their goals are. I'm not specialized in any certain area. I do tend to try to influence towards the outdoors. It's amazing how many people don't just go for walks and things like that. Like something so simple and that I take for granted that people just don't do, where I need to go for walks or hikes or go look for antlers or something. And people don't do that. So I push that.
So when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'm getting ready to go on a sheep hunt, how do you train them?
Well, I've never had that exact situation.
Okay.
I would try to find like exercises that are going to work, simulate a sheep hunt, like what you're going to need to do on a sheep hunt. So what I do for myself, I'm not really training for sheep hunts, but just for any kind of hunting, is I'll load up my pack and do my cardio with my pack on, or I will, if I go for a hike, I'll put my pack on and it has weights in it, or I'll do my whole workout with my pack.
So you're
on.
rucking. Yeah. They call it rucking, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing fancy. It's just basic everyday movements that are going to help you get closer to your goal. And then there is obviously certain equipment and stuff that are going to help with that as well. But I try to keep it pretty simple. You don't need big fancy stuff to reach your goals like that.
So I know to hunt the mountains, my core has to be strong. Aerobically, I have to be solid, and then my legs have to be solid and my shoulders. So you work in all components of your body just to get into elk country. Yeah,
that's right. But yeah, it does totally stem from your core. If your core is weak, then the rest, you're not going to have strong legs, you're not going to have strong shoulders or anything. Your core is the most important, and everything stems off of that.
So what is a training schedule or regime to build your core? What would you recommend to people?
The number one exercise for core strength is planking. So where you're on either your hands or your elbows, then you're almost in like a push-up position, and you hold it. So you're on your toes and your elbows or your hands. And if you can't stay on your toes, then you're on your knees and your elbows. And you just hold it. You just hold your core really tight, and you hold it for as long as you can.
And then how many sets do I do with that?
Well, if you're just starting, you could do whatever you can for length. Like if you can make it 10 seconds, then that's all you do. But 3 times would be a good starting point. So if you can do 10 seconds times 3, then that's good. But lots of people can hold them for over a minute or whatever your starting point is, times 3, and then up it as you get better and as you get stronger. Challenge yourself and push yourself to hold it longer.
And then how many reps would you recommend?
Well, just 1, because you're holding it. Like your rep is how long you can hold it for. So your rep is like your 20 seconds or...
Okay. And how many of those do I do? So how many sets of that?
3.
3, and then I don't do any more that day?
Yeah, or you could later, but it depends where you are starting, where your starting point is. And there's a ton of different variations you can do for a plank as well. Like you just have to look it up, but there's like so many. You can do plank jacks, you can do toe taps, you can do knees in, like there's tons. You can do side planks. They're just a very versatile, no equipment needed. wonderful exercise because they work your shoulders and your quads and everything too. So it's kind of a full body, but targeting your core.
What do you think about yoga?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I need to do it more. Everybody should, I think, at least stretch. And it's good to lengthen out your muscles and stretch your muscles out. It helps with building and repairing after big workout or even just big hunt days.
Yeah, because I know I went to yoga about a year after my crash, and it helped me get better. So my movement was better because yoga is all about movement, and it helped me move better. And so I still got a ways to go, but it certainly helped me. It was interesting about planks because you see so many people, and most noted person on the web is Cameron Haynes, and he's just unbelievable what he's done with his career just in regards to just fitness. And
Right.
he's more than fitness, but that's how he got to where he is today. And you think about that, and a lot of those things, most people can't do what he does. Very few people can. They can aspire to it, but it's hard. And I think sometimes it's good to have a person like you say, hey, here's what you do. We're going to keep it real simple. All I want you to do is X, Y, and Z. These three things, if you do this on a consistent basis over a period of time, you're going to see improvement. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, 100%. You can't go into a goal and just assume you can be where Cameron Haynes is. That's a whole lifetime of work. He's 51, I think. He's put in a good solid long time getting to where he is physically. You can't just expect to be able to lift what he does and do the reps that he does or the distance running that he can do.
Yeah, he just did the Grand Canyon, rim to rim to rim to rim.
He's crazy. Yeah, you can definitely aspire to him or admire that dedication and use that to drive you and help you with your goals. But yeah, you can't start there. Yeah, you have to start small, and every little bit adds up, and every small change does get bigger, and it adds up, and you will see your results and your goals met if you just keep challenging yourself. And everybody starts somewhere different.
Yeah, and I like how you did that. I know you need to go, but what would you like to wrap up the show with? You've got thousands of people that are going to hear this. What do you want to impart to them?
Well, I guess a few things. Like, if you're a woman deciding you want to get into the outdoors in whatever aspect it is, find a way to, and find somebody that you can go with or learn from and keep with it. Even if it's not hunting, but if it's like hiking, like just get outside is the big thing. I can't believe how unimportant that is to so many people to not be outside. And that sounds so simple, but find something that you love to do and do it outside is one thing. And then for us, it's super important to encourage our boys to be involved. So we include them on absolutely everything that we can. They are small, but they're fully capable of doing stuff. So they come along on a lot of hunts. I'll bring them in the blind with me. They come on scouting trips. I got my biggest whitetail with he was 3 at the time. It was just me and him. So that was cool. So just persistence and do it. You can do it. Include them, bring them along. Oftentimes it's harder. It's always harder when you bring them with you, but it's so much more worth it. That's such a memorable day. And yeah, I guess those would be the 2 important things that I would like people to do, is to get moving outside and to include children and women.
Well, Holly Heier, thank you so much for being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous, and I look forward to the next time.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. You betcha. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.